In this highly competitive society, we are constantly comparing to others and chasing for achievements. I believe you all have experienced the tiredness in this process. However, have you ever explored some ways to being kind to yourself? I'm Joyce, and this podcast is going to review a book written by Kristin Neff, Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, which was published in 2011. Author challenges the self-esteem and advocates for cultivating self-compassion as an alternative to maintain our emotional well-being. So let's begin. The main argument in this book is that self-compassion is a more effective and less fragile foundation for mental health than self-esteem. She argues that pursuing self-esteem will make us feel good because we are above average, but it is a fragile and exhausting mental foundation that leads us to constant comparison and harsh self-judgment when we fail. However, what is self-compassion? Author defines this as three components: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Firstly, self-kindness means being gentle and understanding with ourselves instead of harsh judgments. For example, treating ourselves with the attitude we would extend to a good friend. Secondly, common humanity means feeling connected with others in experience of life rather than feeling isolated by our suffering. Failure and imperfection are part of the shared human condition. Our difficulties are not unique or personal failings, but something that connects us to all people. Thirdly, mindfulness means holding our experience in present moment to balance the awareness rather than ignoring or exaggerating our pain. It involves observing our negative thoughts and emotions with openness and non-judgmental attitude, without suppressing them or becoming over-identified. It provides us the space to respond compassionately but not automatically. Therefore, author argues that self-compassion is a better alternative to self-esteem without the need of feeling superior. Although author's argument is powerful, it brings about some controversial arguments. Critics often argue that self-compassion can become self-indulgence, leading to a lack of accountability or motivation. According to Egan and Manzio's study in 2018, they found that individuals can misconstrue self-kindness as self-indulgence. For example, in their study, participants misunderstood that high self-compassion is to less engage in diet and lead to emotional eating, which harm their body. However, according to Tolonen's research in 2024, self-compassionate does not mean self-indulgence. Moreover, according to author's research in 2009, the original meaning of self-kindness refers to the engagement in activity that benefits one's well-being, but not behavior leading to uncomfortable. It can be understood as the nourishing activity in daily life, such as doing sports or learning. Hence, as we can see, self-indulgence means choosing a short-term pleasure and escape to create long-term harm. It is a reactive and avoidance behavior that neglects future consequences and their authentic needs. In contrast, author explained that self-compassion is a protective and holistic approach to achieving goals with responsibility. Therefore, it may prevent self-indulgence behavior. And mindfulness helps us pause and aware that if an action is truly needed or just impulsivity. From our perspective, self-compassion doesn't reduce people's motivation and accountability that cause self-indulgence or laziness. The important point is that people must learn to be aware of their thoughts and behaviors so they will be less likely to do depleting behavior automatically. By creating an internal environment of safety and self-fear, it allows you to accept mistakes, take responsibility, and persist towards goal without shaming. Therefore, self-compassion actually provides us solid foundation for challenges and failure without fear. Apart from this point, the second critique is the concept overlap between self-esteem and self-compassion. Mures and August Research in 2023 found that although two concepts have some distinct features, the overlap between them is considerable. Self-esteem and self-compassion has a similar magnitude to measure well-being, and both concepts account for unique variance in this measure when controlling for their shared variance. In addition, there are also empirical data to support this notion. In a longitudinal study conducted by Donald et al. In 2018, around 2,000 adolescents completed measure of trait self-esteem and self-compassion annually for 4 years. The results indicated that self-esteem and self-compassion are substantially correlated across time, yet both constructs shows stability. Hence, Over's viewpoint was inconsistent to this research by saying that self-esteem is unstable. From my perspective, they can be seen as complementary concepts, according to Baumeister et al.'s article in 1993. Although extremely high self-esteem may heighten people's threats to stress, optimal self-esteem provides the strength to face failure and adopt alternative methods to achieve goals. Hence, it is suggested that future research can look into their joint protective role to promote public's mental health. After reading this book, it also gave me some insights and reflections. Sometimes my worries come from social comparison. For instance, my friends have more working experience and more competitive than me. I always felt I was not good enough and I will lose in pursuing a postgraduate degree. These feelings might be because of the mismatch between my ideal and actual self that made me feel anxious and have self-criticism. Since the comparison forces are depleting and giving conditional love, it is vital to aware of automatic comparing mind and try to let go of it. Yet, it is not easy to stop the comparison mind as we have been comparing for many years. Also, not comparing to others does not mean that we should give up our goal, but rather appreciate ourselves in the present moment, focus on progress, and guide ourselves to the goal gradually. Hence, if you're aware of the comparison mind, you can try to close your eyes and console yourself that I'm good enough now. I only need to do my best on the current task and focus on my improvements. Here, I would like to share the self-compassion practice that I like the most to you, which is loving kindness meditation, and it is recommended by the author as well. This meditation is not only fostering self-compassion, but also compassion to others. Moreover, as what author has written, if we want to send compassion to others, we first need to cultivate stable self-compassion. The self-compassion and unconditional love are vital to prepare ourselves for future difficulties by maintaining our sense of self-worth and protect us from mental breakdown. You might feel weird sending love to difficult others at start and thinking that there was nothing that you need to thank them for. I had the same thoughts when I first practiced it. Yet, I realized that showing kindness to the difficult others was also a method to overcome those unresolved negative events. When we send kindness to others, the kindness also in turn benefits us eventually. If you are so busy that cannot condense this formal practice, mindful walking as an informal practice can help us recognize the small happiness in daily life and enhance our emotional well-being too. Here comes to the end of this podcast. The key takeaway for you is that try to cultivate the self-compassion, just like doing exercise in daily routine. Although it is a long journey to foster and consolidate the self-compassion mind, these nourishing activities will serve as a self-care method and toolbox in your future.